Get your kicks on Route 66. If you've heard that line, you know we're talking about more than just a road. We're talking about a dream, an American legend paved in asphalt and painted in neon. Route 66, the Mother Road, America's main street. For nearly 60 years, this 2,448-mile ribbon of highway connected 8 states, dozens of small towns, and millions of dreams. It was the path to opportunity, the gateway to the West, and the ultimate symbol of American freedom. But Route 66 wasn't just about getting from point A to point B. It was about the journey itself, the roadside attractions, the mom and pop motels, the small-town diners where everyone knew your name. It was about adventure, reinvention, and the open road. Today, we're taking you on a journey down this legendary highway, exploring its history, its heyday, and why it still captivates our imagination decades after the last section was officially decommissioned. To understand Route 66, we need to go back to the 1920s, a time when America was falling in love with the automobile. But the roads? Well, they were a nightmare. Most roads were unpaved, unmarked, and often impassable in bad weather. Interstate travel was an adventure in the worst sense of the word. The nation desperately needed a modern highway system. Enter Cyrus Avery, businessman from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who had a vision. Avery understood that highways weren't just about transportation, they were about economic development. As part of the Federal Highway Commission, he championed the creation of a diagonal route connecting Chicago to Los Angeles. On November 11, 1926, Route 66 was officially established. The number itself was chosen carefully. 60 was the designation for major east-west routes, but the 0 at the end made it sound less important. Avery wanted 60, but it was already taken. The compromise? 66. 2 sixes. Easy to remember, and as it turned out, destined for immortality. But here's the thing: when Route 66 was officially designated in 1926, most of it wasn't actually paved. It would take more than a decade to fully pave the entire route. The complete paving wasn't finished until 1938, just in time for it to play one of the most important roles in American history. This highway wasn't just an engineering project. It was a lifeline that would soon carry thousands of Americans toward hope during their darkest hour. The 1930s brought devastation to America's heartland. The Dust Bowl, a catastrophic ecological disaster, turned millions of acres of farmland into wasteland. Crops failed, banks foreclosed, entire communities disappeared, and so they left. Farmers, sharecroppers, and laborers from Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, and Arkansas packed everything they owned into jalopies and headed west. They called them Okies, a term that started as an insult but became a badge of survival. Route 66 became their path to salvation. California meant jobs, orange groves, a fresh start. The highway carried somewhere between 200,000 and 400,000 migrants westward during the Depression years. John Steinbeck immortalized this exodus in his masterpiece, The Grapes of Wrath. In it, he called Route 66 the Mother Road, the road of flight. He wrote, 66 is the path of a people in flight, refugees from dust and shrinking land. The novel wasn't just fiction, it was journalism. Steinbeck traveled Route 66, talked to migrants, and witnessed their struggle. His book brought national attention to their plight and forever linked Route 66 with themes of hardship, hope, and the American dream. The towns along Route 66 played their part too. Some were welcoming, offering food and work. Others were hostile, putting up signs that read, "No Okies." But the highway itself? It never judged. It just kept rolling westward, carrying dreams across the desert. After World War II, everything changed. America was prosperous, optimistic, and mobile. The GI Bill put money in veterans' pockets, manufacturing was booming, and for the first time, millions of middle-class families could afford cars and vacations. Route 66 entered its golden age. This wasn't about fleeing disaster anymore, this was about celebrating the good life. The highway became America's favorite playground. Entrepreneurs seized the opportunity. Motor courts and motels sprang up like wildflowers along the route. These weren't fancy establishments, they were mom and pop operations with names like Blue Swallow Motel and Wigwam Village, featuring teepee-shaped rooms. The competition was fierce, so owners got creative. They erected massive neon signs visible for miles. They built roadside attractions to lure travelers, giant statues, reptile farms, trading posts. The weirder, the better. And then there were the diners. Oh, the diners. Places where you could get a burger, a slice of pie, and a cup of coffee while your kids pressed their noses against the window watching cars go by. These weren't just restaurants, they were community centers. Places where locals and travelers mingled. Even filling up your tank was an experience. Service station attendants in crisp uniforms would pump your gas, check your oil, clean your windshield, and give you road trip advice, all with a smile. Service wasn't just a word, it was a philosophy. For a generation of Americans, Route 66 was where childhood memories were made. The anticipation of, "Are we there yet?" The excitement of crossing state lines. The freedom of the open road with the windows down and the radio up. This was more than transportation. This was the American dream on wheels. In 1946, jazz musician Bobby Troup was driving where else? Route 66 from Pennsylvania to California. His wife suggested he write a song about the highway. By the time they reached Los Angeles, he'd penned one of the most covered songs in American music history. If you ever plan to motor west, travel my way, take the highway, that's the best. Get your kicks on Route 66. The song rattled off the cities like a travel itinerary. St. Louis, Joplin, Oklahoma City, Amarillo, Gallup, Flagstaff, Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. It wasn't just catchy, it was a geography lesson set to music. Nat King Cole made it a hit. Then came covers by Chuck Berry, the Rolling Stones, Depeche Mode, the list goes on. The song transcended genres and generations, keeping Route 66 alive in the popular imagination. In 1960, television got in on the action. The series, Route 66, followed two young men traveling the highway in a Chevrolet Corvette, seeking adventure and finding America. The show was filmed on location, showcasing real towns and landscapes along the route. Hollywood couldn't resist either. From The Grapes of Wrath to Easy Rider, from Thelma and Louise to Pixar's Cars, Route 66 became cinematic shorthand for freedom, rebellion, and self-discovery. Writers beyond Steinbeck chronicled the road. Jack Kerouac captured its spirit of restless movement. Michael Wallace documented its history. Countless travel writers and photographers made pilgrimages, each finding their own meaning in the journey. Route 66 had transcended its physical form. It became an idea, symbol, a canvas for American creativity. It represented possibility, the notion that you could always start over, that adventure was just around the next bend. So what would you actually see if you drove Route 66 in its heyday or even today? Let's take a quick tour of some legendary stops. We start in Chicago at Lou Mitchell's restaurant, serving breakfast since 1923. This is Mile Zero, where the adventure begins with coffee and donut holes. Cross the Mississippi on the chain of Roxbridge, with its distinctive 22-degree bend, a quirk of engineering that's now a beloved landmark. In Missouri, you'd see signs every few miles for Merrimack Caverns, once a hideout for Jesse James. The owner practically invented billboard advertising to lure travelers underground. Oklahoma brings you the Blue Whale of Catoosa, an 80-foot-long blue whale structure that was once a swimming hole. Pure roadside Americana. In Texas, 10 Cadillacs are buried nose down in a wheat field at Cadillac Ranch. It's art. It's weird. It's perfect. Arizona offers the Wigwam Motel in Holbrook. Sleep in a teepee. The concrete teepees are still standing, still renting rooms. And you can't skip the natural wonders: the petrified forest, the painted desert, and of course, the Grand Canyon, just a detour north. In California's Mojave Desert, Roy's Motel and Cafe in Amboy stands as a testament to the boom and bust of Route 66. Once abandoned, now lovingly restored. And finally, we reach the end, the Santa Monica Pier, where Route 66 meets the Pacific Ocean. A sign marks the terminus, end of the trail. These landmarks weren't just tourist traps. They were the soul of Route 66, quirky, genuine, uniquely American. But nothing lasts forever. In 1956, President Eisenhower signed the Interstate Highway System Act. The new interstates were faster, safer, and more efficient. They bypassed the small towns, going straight through open country. For Route 66, it was the beginning of the end. As the interstates opened section by section, traffic drained away from the mother road. Motels closed, diners shut down, gas stations went dark. Entire towns that had depended on Route 66 withered. On June 27, 1985, Route 66 was officially decommissioned. The signs came down. The road that had carried millions of dreams was now just a collection of local streets and forgotten pavement. But here's where the story gets interesting. Just when Route 66 seemed destined for the history books, people started fighting back. Preservation societies formed. Historians documented what remained. Business owners refused to let the dream die. Today, you can still drive much of Route 66, now designated as a historic route. About 85% of the original route is still drivable, marked with brown Historic Route 66 signs. And the tourists are coming back, not just Americans, but visitors from around the world. Germans, Japanese, Australians, all drawn by the legend. They rent classic cars or ride motorcycles, staying in restored motor courts, eating in vintage diners. The towns are coming back too. Williams, Arizona, Seligman, Arizona, Cuba, Missouri. They've learned that nostalgia is their greatest asset. Route 66 has become a living museum journey through American history. It's not the same as it was, it can never be that again. But in a way, that makes it more precious. It's a reminder that some things are worth preserving, that the journey still matters. So why does Route 66 still matter? Why do people travel thousands of miles to drive a road that technically doesn't exist anymore? Because Route 66 represents something fundamental to the American character, the belief that you can always start over, that the open road leads to opportunity, that the journey itself is the destination. It reminds us of a time when America was smaller, slower, more personal. When you knew the person who served you coffee, when travel was an adventure, not just a means to an end. Route 66 is more than nostalgia. It's a living connection to our past, a celebration of small-town America, and a testament to the power of preservation. It's proof that some roads are worth taking the long way. The Mother Road is waiting. 2,448 miles of history, quirky attractions, and American dreams. Maybe it's time you got your kicks on Route 66. Thanks for riding along with us today. If you enjoyed this journey through American history, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Have you driven Route 66, or is it on your bucket list? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to dive deeper, check out our video on the Interstate Highway System or our series on America's national parks. Until next time, keep exploring history and remember, sometimes the journey matters more than the destination.